used that character for a number of years. I mean, Lord Zedd is probably the most reoccurring villain in all of Power Rangers. So you've come out multiple seasons and reprised the character, even when that character wasn't even really a part of that season. You were able to keep coming back. What do you think it was about that character as a villain that just made, something that always kind of go back to that made him so special?
I think it was the durability of the character, and again, I prefer to think it was because of my talent as a voiceover artist that he stayed around that long.
Yes.
That's the badass too, right? Toot my own horn, but who else is going to toot it, But yeah, that's, I guess I was around about 200 episodes maybe?
How much did you have to work out to get that physique going?
Oh, okay.
Was the metal armor a little cumbersome?
I was a racquetball player at the time. I had to retire from the sport because of my knee and my osteoporosis. But, so I was in pretty good shape.
Oh, it's a great character, and even though Lord Zedd wasn't the main villain of the movie, you were still in the movie, which is a great honor.
What I like about it is he comes back at the end and regains his throne.
As he should.
Yeah.
So,
poor Goldar, he was always like, there was always the guy that he was about to rise up to power, and somebody else comes in and takes over.
It never seems to make it. But Steve, you joined the show in kind of a unique way. You were the first time that they kind of shook up the cast a little bit. And I'm kind of curious, because I know that the casting process was a little different with the earlier group of Rangers than it was to some of the later groups. What was it like going through the audition process to become a Power Ranger?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I liken it to like American Idol, because they did what is known as a cattle call, where they just go nationwide and they just say anyone and everyone. We just want to see anyone. We're looking for people that know how to do martial arts, gymnastics, or hip hop dancing. Those are the only prerequisites. Otherwise, anyone and everyone is welcome to come and check out this, to audition in this process. So I heard about an audition on the radio. I was living in Dallas, Texas at the time, and I said, why not? I'll just go and I'll try out and see what happens, And when I got there, just in my city alone, because they were traveling around to Los Angeles, New York, Florida, Texas, everywhere. So when they got to Dallas, there were about 4,000 people that had showed up just to Dallas alone. So when I got there, I was like, oh my gosh, there's absolutely no way I'm gonna make it. I was just, I was already defeated before I even walked in, But I just said to myself, you know what? If I can just make it to the first round, that'd be cool. If I make it to the first round, that'd be cool. So that's kind of how it started. So I went, and there was 3 people sitting at a table, kind of like the judges at American Idol, and they would just kind of whisk everybody through one at a time. Okay, you got 30 seconds, show us what you know how to do. And so that's kind of how it started. So I went I did my little routine for them. Okay, cool, thank you very much. And then, a couple hours later, they called me back. They're like, hey, we'd like to have you come back and try round 2. We want to put your audition on film so we can take it to California and see if the producers like it. And so they had narrowed it down from 4,000 to 30. And so I was like, cool, so I made it into the top 30.
Which you should be proud of.
Yeah, I was like, and I said to myself, I just kept saying to myself every single time, what, if I just make it through this next round, that'll be cool. I can say that, no one can ever take that away from me. So I made it to the top 30, and then they put it on film, and they said, all right, well, we're going to take it to the producers, and if we like it, we'll give you a call. I didn't ever think I'd ever hear from them again. But sure enough, 2 days later, I got a phone call. They're like, hey, this is Katie Mullen from Power Rangers. And I'm like, oh, hi, how are you? She's like, great, you know what? We showed your videos to the producers, and they want to fly you out to California to meet them. Oh, wow, this is crazy. And they said, yeah, we've picked 3 people from each city that we were in. So we picked 3 people from New York, 3 people from Florida, 3 people from Dallas, and 3 people from California. And so they said, there's a plane ticket waiting for you at the airport. Just go and pack a bag and be prepared to stay in California for a couple of days. So I packed a bag, went to the airport, and I had a plane ticket waiting for me. And then that's where Johnny Young Bosch was there too, and Karen Ashley were there, and then some of the other people from different cities all met in Dallas, and then we all flew on the same plane together to California. And we get to the Burbank airport, and they whisked us right over to Savan's studio, which at the time was in Burbank. And we basically went into the boardroom there and sat in front of this big, huge, long table where Haim Saban was there, Shuki Levy was there, Tony Allen was there, Katie Wallen, the casting agent, and a few other people. And they just had us like do our routine again, the audition, and then they started like pairing us together. And they see who looks good together this way. They pulled somebody from New York, let's get somebody from California, let's get somebody from Texas, let's see how they look together. And it ended up being that all three people came from Dallas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was me, Karen, and Johnny. We all got hired in Dallas, and we're the ones that made it through out of everybody else. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. So we just, we made it through that second round, and we made it through one more round, and then on the last day, I said to the producers, like, hey, listen, if we don't make it, is there any way that at least just so we can have a memory of this experience, can we just meet the other Power Rangers? And see, I thought they were just going to add more Power Rangers to the cast. I didn't know we were replacing anyone. And they were like, well, you're not going to get to take any pictures of the Power Rangers because there won't be any need for that because you are the new Rangers. Whoa. And we were just like screaming and jumping up and down.
It's like an Oprah thing, like, look under your chair, look under your Ranger, and you're a Ranger.
That's pretty much how it went down. And so, of course, like, me and Johnny and Karen were like all hugging each other and jumping up and down and like crying and stuff. We're like, yeah, this is so awesome. And they're like, yeah, so great. So we got to start filming right away. You don't even have time to go home. Can your parents mail you your clothes because we got to get filming right away. So we didn't even get to go back home.
We own you now.
Yeah, they basically did. They owned us. They put us up in this hotel, and then we had started filming right away. And of course, our parents shipped us out our clothes and our cars and things like that. And
so you were like 17, 16 years old?
Actually, I was 20.
You were 20? Okay.
I was 20 years old. Yeah, they were looking for people that had at least 18. And so then, they said, oh, and by the way, in a month and a half, we're going to shut down production. We're going to film as much episodes as we can before we're going to shut production down so you can go to Australia to do the movie.
So you didn't even know?
I had no idea there was even a movie.
You didn't even know what role you were going in for.
I didn't even know what Ranger I was going to be or anything. I didn't even know until we got on set, and then we went into wardrobe, and the wardrobe director was like, oh, well, who's the Red Ranger, who's the Black Ranger? We don't.
So you go into this room with 30 other people. For all you know, they might just be dropping a stick in the middle of the room and say, who wants to be a Power Ranger? And let you guys go at it.
Yeah.
You don't even know. And then next thing you know, you're like, oh, well, hey, even if I don't get it, kind of, shrugging yourself. Can I at least meet the other Power Rangers?
Yeah.
You're like, no, we're just going to make you famous right now.
Yeah,
that's how it went down?
That's exactly how it went down. It's so crazy. And then that's not normal either, because like most people, if you've ever gone to auditions and stuff, you go through a lot of auditions and whatnot. This all happened in the span of like 4 days. It was like that, from Dallas, when the audition had in Dallas, that weekend was the day, it was like a Saturday when we did that audition, and they called me on Monday. They flew us out on Tuesday morning, and on Tuesday, we did all of our audition stuff, and then on Wednesday morning we got hired.
And was it like a day and night like change in your life where all of a sudden like how soon after you actually started filming episodes did we as an audience start seeing you as a Ranger?
Yep. I can tell you exactly. So we got hired in July of 1994, and then in November of 1994 is when we started showing the power transfer and all that stuff. That all happened in November of 94. Yeah. And by that time, we were already in Australia filming the movie at that time that was going on.
So before you even showed up on TV for the world to know that you were a Power Ranger, you were already filming a big budget movie. Like that's insane.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was insane. And the Australian fans were really confused too because they had only seen the first season.
So they were expecting Austin.
So like fans were coming out to meet. They were expecting to see Austin, and then they're like, "Who's this guy? Who's this Yellow Ranger? Who's the where's the Black Ranger?" So they just they were confused at first.
That's insane. So did you guys ever meet on set? Did you guys ever work together, you and Robert, or was this kind of something like more like later on? Did you guys start building a friendship? Because you guys are friends, actually.
Later on, I never came to the set, except once in a while I visit to see what the craft services were like.
But I weren't too far away. They were just in the next room. So we always pass each other. You might leave your 80 on. I'd be going in to do my ADR, you know?
Once in a while I go for lunch, you know, they were breaking for lunch and I was around. But I did most of my stuff, all my stuff in post-production in the studios, in front of the TV screen.
So it wasn't until we started doing the cons that we really got to like, you know, get to know each other and stuff. But yeah, it's been fun.
So when you're making the movie, what was it like making the difference between, for both of you guys? Because I'm sure the process was a little different because this is an original movie. Everything that was in the movie was your guys' costume, not footage from Japan, all of you guys, every single element. What was the difference? What did it feel different when you were making the movie as opposed to making the show?
Well, a big difference was that the TV show was shot on a shorter budget, so they had to crank out as much as they could, as fast as they could, and everything was done at a very fast pace. You know, we'd sometimes be filming 2 or 3 episodes in 1 week, you know, kind of thing. And, you know, so, you know, there was always quick costume changes and different, you know, like if we do something in the command center, we'd be in the command center all day that day. But we wouldn't film, you know, we'd film like 3 different episodes in there, so we'd be doing wardrobe change and costume change, and then we'd go back and do a new scene for a completely different episode. It was really hard to keep track of what we were even doing. But the movie was much different. It was a big budget, so they slowed everything down. And it was, you know, lots of, you know, a lot more cameras and lots of big intricate cameras and lots of big lighting sets and huge sets that they built for the movie. You know, a lot of those like forest scenes where we're fighting all the rock people and stuff. That was all on a big soundstage. You know, that wasn't outside anywhere. So yeah, there was big elaborate sets and everything was slow. And the director was, you know, I must insist that we do 30 takes of every single scene. You know,
We're on TV. It's like that's good enough.
Yeah, it's going to be one and done. You know, next.
Look, there's a monster. We got it. Fine, go.
It was a completely different process. You know, I mean, you know, from the outsider it might look the same, but you know, when you're kind of experiencing it, it's way different.
How was it for you, Robert?
Well, in the TV show, the screen I look at was just a big television set. But the movie was a big, gigantic. We were on at 20th Century Fox. No, we were at Tadeo down in West LA, Santa Monica. Yeah, right on the border or something. And it was a much bigger screen, and but the basics were the same. It's I worked 3 days, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the movie coming out, what I guess so you're filming the movie at the same time the episodes are showing up. They're starting to air. What changed in your life? Like all of a sudden, you're basically filming a bunch of TV show episodes. Then you start going on and filming a movie, and no one has seen you yet. No one knows that you're even a Power Ranger. So all of a sudden, like you have this delay of a couple months in your life where you're doing what I assume 6-hour days, 6 day weeks, 18-hour days.
12, 13, 14 hours.
Yeah, just going crazy. And all this hard work, when did it start actually catching up and boom, you're Rocky?
Well, yeah, obviously it didn't catch up to us until we actually got back from filming the movie, because we were in Australia at that time. So, you know, nobody recognized us there either, you know, because, you know, Power Rangers season 2 wouldn't come out for another year after that. So, you know, it wasn't until we got back home that it started to become, like, people started to recognize, hey, I think that's, you know, did we go to high school together? That's what people used to say, you know. But again, though, even then, really, you know, I wouldn't get recognized that much because anyone that might have known who we were just little kids, and they were too shy to come up and say anything to us anyway. You know, they would always hide behind their parents because they were so intimidated. So nothing really changed that much, you know. And it wasn't until people would actually say, "Oh, this guy is the Power Ranger on a TV show," you know, that people would go, "Oh yeah, I've seen you."
Did you have any of those experiences where you were doing those live like events or things like that where it just got kind of crazy?
Yeah. Well, when we were promoting the movie, when we were doing the tour, we did a huge nationwide tour. We were visiting like cities all over the country, and you know, to promote the movie. And yeah, there was a lot of crazy things. Like for example, we went to Dodger Stadium, you know, on opening day. At Dodger Stadium, there's 50,000 people in the stands, and we got to go out on the field, you know, in the Power Ranger suits, and we were doing like flips and martial arts demonstrations, and I got up in front of the audience, and I'm like, never been in front of a huge crowd like that before, and I'm like, hey, thanks for coming out, you know, come see the Power Ranger movie. It's it's coming out next week, you know, so on and so forth. So yeah, we were just going all over the country doing the autograph signings at malls and everywhere, all over the place. So it was a crazy experience.
We do have 2 microphones set up, one on each side. If you guys want to line up and get ready for questions, we will definitely be able to make sure that we try to get through as many questions as possible before we hop into those. So I'm curious, you were also, Steve, part of the first kind of transition in the show, where typically, you know, it was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for 3 years, everybody saw the suits, and you were part of Zeo, which kind of kicked off a trend where every year after that, Power Rangers kind of rebooted in a way. You know, I mean, there's a thin line of continuity. The first 6 seasons had strong continuity, but after that, there's kind of a reboot every year with, you know, thin continuity. But what was that change from Mighty Morphin to Zeo like? It felt like a lot of the stories started to get actually a little bit more complex and serious when we started going into Zeo.
You know, I feel like, you know, there was a little bit more emphasis on character development, you know, when it came to Zeo. I think that, you know, because they were changing the costumes and changing the whole concept, I think they really wanted to make sure that at least, you know, that the fans had the characters to hold on to, at least if nothing else, you know? Because I think some people were like, oh, once Zeo happened, I stopped watching, you know? Because they were used to that color scheme and the Harlequin, you know, whatever you call this.
The weird kind of techno.
Yeah, you know. So, but you know, when they changed that whole concept, it was a little different, I guess. But I really feel for us it was a lot of fun because they gave us a little bit more. You know, they gave our characters a little more depth, which I appreciated.
Yeah, both most noticeably, I think both you and Johnny's characters really were able to start kind of taking more of a role where. I thought you were definitely a much stronger character. Johnny's character started becoming a bit funnier and sillier. Definitely started developing those a lot more. And I'm not sure if this is kind of a controversial question, but I know in the movie Turbo, there was in the last actual couple episodes of Zeo, you weren't really actually in them. And you know, with Turbo, your character was kind of injured in the movie. Now, was there, from what I heard, was there like a real life injury that actually happened?
No, there was no real life injury. That was just the storyline, you know, in order to be able to, if I were incapacitated, then that they have somebody that they can bring in and needs to replace me, and that was how they decided to replace me. But it was my choice to leave the show at the time. I only had 1 more year on the contract, but I just wanted to leave at that point. So that's the whole reason that they did it. But I was slated to do the entire Turbo season, and I was slated to do the movie and everything. There was no talks of bringing in Justin or Blake as you know, or a kid or anything like that. That didn't happen until after I told them that I wasn't going to do the next season. So they're like, oh well, okay, well at least do part of the movie with us and do a couple of episodes so we can introduce this new character. I said that's fine, I'll do that.
And also, I mean, from what it looks like, you probably wouldn't have been on much longer anyways because they did the whole cast shakeup.
We had one last season left, and that was it, so maybe about 40 or 50 more episodes.
I think they got like 16 in before the rest of the Turbo cast even.
There wasn't much left.
Yeah. So let's get to some questions, and let's start off with this mic over here.
With the new movie coming out in 2016, would either of you want to be in it or reprise a role?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Yes. There you go.
Now only yes or no questions are allowed, okay? That was easy, I like that.
Let's go over here.
No. Yes.
Hi. How you guys doing up there?
Okay. Yes.
Well, I got a question for Mr. Axelrod.
Yes,
did you get to watch much of the show at all? See how your character impacted how everybody else interacted with him and such?
At home.
At home?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, then I had a follow-up question.
I tune in unless I forget very often what the show was on. I just was working on my desk and oh shit, it's 4:30.
4:30. So I was more excited than the kids.
So since you get to watch it, how do you feel being having a character that was such a huge sea change to how the show was directed? Sea change. How it was directed and how the characters interacted, and it seemed like everything went up to 11 once Lord Zedd showed up on the show. How do you feel about being such an important villain to the entire Power Rangers series, really?
To add on to that, I will say, as a kid watching the show, I liked Power Rangers. And then Lord Zedd became the villain, and I loved Power Rangers.
Right?
Like, there was like, oh, this is the coolest. Hey, visually, he was cool.
Terrifying.
The voice was cool. He had much more of a sinister motive. He didn't seem as cheesy. He seemed like something that could actually kind of come from my nightmares.
Formidable, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, to kind of tag on to that, what was, yeah.
Yeah, it was, I'm very proud of the outcome of what happened. The impact was tremendous, I guess. That's why Zedd stayed around as long as he did, because we were able, with the writers and myself and directors, were able to maintain interesting storylines for each episode. And I guess I made the impression of Lord Zedd had a lot of integrity. He was whole. He was wholly evil. So. Which is why I was disappointed when Rita came back and they got married and a love potion and all this happy horseshit.
Thank you.
But it was a necessary thing, I guess. I don't know.
So you didn't see Zedd as a happily married man? You didn't see him going?
No. I saw him as...
The studios got involved.
Yeah. He might have a lover on the side, you know.
Let's go. We got Link over here with a question.
Well, that's Peter Pan. I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's a joke from earlier, so never mind. Forget it. It's an inside joke. It's just too esoteric.
You're not the first person to make a comparison like that. But my question is, out of all the Power Rangers theme songs, 20 years of theme songs, excluding anything that's the original or just a remix of the original like you're doing with the current series, what is your personal favorite, both of you?
Personal favorite of what?
Theme songs.
Theme songs.
Oh, theme songs.
I like the Bulk and Skull theme. Every time they walk in, you know, it's like two circus clowns. That's a pretty fun theme. Lord Zedd had a theme too, right?
Yeah, you mean specifically like the intro, like the theme song for the show.
All right, you mean the title sequence song? Okay, all right, yeah. Z was pretty cool. You know, I mean, if you're gonna, you know, if you're not allowing us to have Mighty Morphin be our favorite, right?
Well, that's everybody's favorite.
Yeah.
Zeo was so metal. Like Zeo, like started off like,
Yeah.
you know,
It's cool, but nothing compares. Nothing compares to the first one. The first.
Power Ranger.
Yeah, exactly. That's one that everyone's gonna remember forever. It has the best music. You know, the rock theme is better than all of us. I mean, I don't really know too many other ones. I stopped watching after Zero, to be honest. I don't really know as much. You guys know way more about, you know, all the later episodes than I ever possibly could. I mean,
I certainly do.
yeah. That's great. I mean, you know, you guys, I thank you all for that because you guys kept it alive, you know, and if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be sitting here, so I thank you. I give yourselves a hand for that, too. You know, when I left the show, I stopped watching and don't really know a lot of the other theme songs, so my personal favorite is, you know, is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, you know. They've got a power and force that you've never seen before. Yeah, Zeo, they say they're stronger than before, but I really don't know. I disagree, actually.
Well, thank you, Peter Pan. You got a question over here?
What was it like using the Zords and, you know, all the other machines in the series?
Good question. Oh, yeah, well, Serpentera was my Zord. And some of the strongest episodes were in Serpentera. So it was great when I was in there, you know, that was my battleship.
You were like the Galactus of Zords, too. Your Zord was like...
He was bigger.
The gigantic, on the moon, just huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to ruin all the fantasy for everybody, but a lot of that footage was Japanese footage, not his stuff, but, you know, all the stuff in the Zords was all Japanese footage, so all we would ever do is go inside the little fishbowl recording studio, and we kind of dub our voice to the whatever the actual Japanese character rangers were doing in that particular Zord. So we never really got to walk onto the Zord sets, and look inside them or anything like that. I never actually saw one of the Zord sets. I saw the Zord sets on the movie and went and checked those out. That was pretty cool, but I'd never seen any Zord sets they had built for MMPR.
Was it actually you in the costumes during the movie, for the most part?
There was a lot of us in the costumes in the movie because the movie was unique because they had this concept here actually. The helmet, what they wanted to do was they wanted this idea of, the visors would open up and you could see our eyes, you know what I mean? Like in between like fights and stuff like that. And then they also had this concept that the mouth would open up and you could see our lips move and stuff. So we had all these different types of helmets that had, mouthpieces missing and visors missing, and some with visors and mouthpieces missing, and it just looked weird. It didn't look right, And so then they're like, well, how about if we take out the mouthpiece and then paint their mouth silver, and then that way they can talk and you see the mouth. But it looked weird because you'd see our teeth when we start talking and stuff. So it just looked weird, So they just opted to go with like the big giant what was it, the thermal visor or whatever that went over the Red Ranger helmet, and then the lights that came on to the Tiger helmet and stuff like that. So, they ended up doing that instead, but they had all these ideas, The movie that you see now was completely different than the first script we ever got. Yeah, so
to tag on to that question, obviously you weren't inside the Zords, but do you have a preference on which your favorite Zord was? I mean, you had the Tyrannosaurus.
Red Dragon Thunder Zord.
Red Dragon Thunder Zord, that's right.
Red Dragon Thunder Zord, that's what it's at.
The Thunder,
like flying through the air, man.
I'm telling you, when Lord Zedd came along and the Thunder Zords came along, that's when the show just it's like you already thought it was cool when it's like, oh, we need dinosaur power now. Oh, cool, dinosaurs, that's awesome. No, we need Red Dragon Thunder Zord. Then you see the dinosaur get struck by lightning and turns into this dragon, and you're like, when you're a kid, that's just blowing your mind away. I loved it. I'm just going to talk about Power Rangers all day. Let's get another question over here.
Hi, I'm actually a little nervous, so if I mess up, I'm sorry.
You're doing awesome already. Next.
It's an honor to actually see you here, and it's actually my first con, and part of the reason why I came was to see you guys. And I think what would make it absolutely perfect is if the original Red Ranger would put on the helmet and the little belt buckle would be the original Mighty Morphin sequence.
You're wondering if right now, if it's morphin time? Is that what you're making?
I'm so wondering.
Okay, it's morphin up. I'll tell you what. I'm not going to open the helmet up, but I'll do the morphing sequence with the morpher. All right? Is that cool?
Yes, please.
I'm on stage with the Red Ranger Federal. Morphin time! Everyone's gonna be wondering why I'm just grinning like an idiot for the next month and a half. Nothing can get bad in life again. It's great. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Got a question over here?
Hi, I'm actually wondering, what was the most fun you or both of you had during lip sync or on set?
It's like what was the most fun? It's making
like,
noises too.
The Legacy Morpher plays the Power Ranger music. When you turn it off. It's my favorite toy, actually.
So the question was, what's the most fun they've had on set making Power Rangers?
Do you mess around on set, or did you do any frames or anything like that?
Oh man. Well, I say that the most fun experience I had was doing the film, doing the movie in Australia. Being a 20-year-old kid flying, halfway across the world and being in another country and just getting that experience. I really soaked every bit of that in. You know what I mean? I really enjoyed that time there. So that was probably my funnest experience. Although there was a lot of practical jokes that mostly by Jason David Frank. We call Jason David Prank because he would always play pranks on us and stuff. But one of the things he used to do to the crew members.
Disgusting.
And then I remember one time I was asleep on set and I woke up with a butt right in my face. And I was like, ah! And again, I was Jason. He didn't do that for me though. Yeah. So anyway, a lot of practical jokes being played mostly on.
What about you, Robert? Any like film versions like that?
Well, we had fun in the studio.
Yeah, Scott was great.
We just purposely do bloopers and things and leave them on the track. But the most fun was, I guess, cashing the paychecks.
That's so
Actually, it was quite the opposite for me. I'm like,
thank you. All right, we got a question over here.
This one's for Steve. Last month at Morphicon, did you meet Ryuto Mochizuki, who played your Japanese counterpart? And if so, how was it?
yes, I did actually. I got a bunch of the pictures of it. I posted them up on Instagram and Facebook. Do you follow me?
No, I don't have an Instagram.
You can even follow him on Facebook. Fun fact, he got here early this week, and he went to my hometown and was hanging out at my hometown all day, Steve was, just a couple days ago. I'm seeing him post pictures on Facebook. I'm like, I lived a block over from there, and it was just a surreal experience to me. Just like,
yeah, we went up to Haystack Rock and took pictures of the Goonies rock, out there where the Goonies were, So I thought it was pretty fun. It was a good experience. You gotta do it if you're out here, right? I mean, what a waste if you don't go check out, Astoria and stuff.
So what was it like though, like kind of meeting the person who created your Red Ranger in a lot of ways, the Japanese?
Well, it was very humble, you know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, hello, I was kind of fanboying myself, hi, hello, sir, how are you? Very like respectful, a lot of bowing was going on and stuff. And but we got to take a lot of pictures together, so that was cool. And I have this book, and it's all in Japanese, and it's every single Power Ranger from the very beginning of time from Super Sentai all the way through to like I think at the time whenever the book was published was Mystic Force, I think, or something like that. So all the way from all of the Japanese versions of everything, all the way through all the American versions and whatnot. And so like all of our pictures are in there, but everything's written in Japanese, and then of course all of the characters from all the Japanese series and stuff. So I brought that book to him and he signed it, and then also the stunt guy that was there too signed it, and the Green Ranger signed it as well too. So it was pretty exciting. Yeah, I got a bunch of people to sign it. Actually, I really get you to sign it, so I don't have it with me now, but I'll give it to you. Oh yeah, of course, yeah, 100%. Yeah, Lord Zedd's all up in that thing.
Well, thank you. Over there.
I have two questions here. My first question is for Steve. I remember them bringing always the old cast back for redeveloping, but the one episode that really hit me hard, because you're one of my favorite Reddit Rangers, is Forever Red. I hear multiple things saying you did not want it or they lost contact with you. I was just wondering, where was the whole story there?
I really don't know, I feel like they lost contact with me because they did call me and they were like, hey, we're doing a reunion show, are you interested? And I said, yes, I'm interested, let me know. And then I never heard back from them again, and the next thing you know, they aired Forever Red and I wasn't in it. So there's no explanation as to why I'm not in it, there's no explanation for me either. I really don't know, I thought maybe it's because they lost my number, but really? Did you really lose my number? I have no idea.
There's been things like that before too, like with the big 20-year reunion show where, they reached out to a whole bunch of Power Rangers like, hey, would you be interested? And so many people came back like, yes! And they're like, well, we only want to interview, so.
Right.
Yeah,
they did ask me to go to be in the Megaforce, and they laid out a deal for me and everything like that, but I just couldn't get to New Zealand at the time that they were filming, so that was the reason that I'm not in that. But hopefully, I put in a word to see if I can try to do Dino Charge next season.
And I know that Austin St. John also said that at Power Morphicon that he's also in talks about possibly
it's possible. We'll see. I have no idea.
And I know Jason David Frank has also been talking about it. So we might, while it's been 20 years, there's still a pretty good chance that we're going to see a lot of the classic Rangers at least make some kind of appearances again in the future.
It's always possible.
Yeah, thank you.
And the other question is, how did you feel about the transition from from the Thunder Zords to the Ninja Zord, like that whole costume array and stuff like that?
It was, yeah, well, like I said, Red Dragon Thunderzord was my favorite, so to switch from Red Dragon to the Ape wasn't very exciting for me. You know?
It does feel like a step back almost.
Yeah. So I wasn't super happy about that, but I understand they got toys to sell.
Man, I'm kind of curious. A lot of people might not know this, but the Power Rangers, the motion picture, isn't actually in continuity because you guys, in the actual show, then retold an entirely different origin for the ninja powers. Was that kind of something that anybody kind of any of the actors were like, wait, why are we doing this again, and why is it completely different?
For me, I didn't really care. I was just happy to keep working on the show and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, fine, we'll do the story again. It's fine. But I think it was a good, the movie was a good platform to introduce the new series. I mean, not the new series. Well, I guess the new series, but also the new Zords and everything like that. But I think the storyline had to be retold again. They can't just assume that people were going to see the movie.
Yeah.
They have to cater to the people that maybe couldn't afford to go to the movie or something like that. So, or if the movie wasn't going to be in that part of the world somewhere, they have to retell the story again.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Question over there.
So my question is for Steve: Do you keep in contact with Jason David Frank? And I have a couple questions because of that.
Whoa! I do. I think he is at another convention right now, but yeah, let's see.
Maybe we'll see if he'll say what's up.
But yeah, let's see. Cross your fingers, everybody. We can get Jason in.
Got another question in the meantime?
Yeah, while we're looking this up.
I was wondering if you'd seen him do the White Ranger Scorpion that's on YouTube.
Have you seen that YouTube video?
Yes.
Are you
Scorpion, yes, I've seen it. I've seen both versions, the alternate version where Scorpion wins too.
Which one was your favorite?
Oh, come on, man.
I'm sorry.
What the hell? Call this guy right now. My boy. Let me see if he'll give us a call and say hi.
Hopefully he's in the panel right now too. They're like, hey guys, go on.
I know, right? He's probably in the panel too.
Let's see.
All right. Well, I'll do a text now. We'll see if he.
All right. Cool. Well, hold tight there in case we can get him on there. Go ahead.
All right. How you doing? So this is more of a fan fiction kind of question. Since you guys mentioned the whole Red Ranger taking off Lord Zedd's head and his arm being ripped off at the same time. This is I'm more of like, all right. So would Lord Zedd be able to physically defeat the Power Rangers, or would it just be like he would just defeat one of them at a time, or how would it? Because he's always sending like minions, but I believe he's like he can do it. Like he can.
What do you think, Robert? Think he's got what it takes?
Well, Lord Zedd is kind of like a good administrator. He's doing different jobs to
He's a good delegator.
He's a manager, yeah. He's like the president. He delegates responsibilities. So, but when push comes to shove, there is an episode of Lord Zedd versus the White Ranger, where the White Ranger, which is Jason David Frank, Tommy, it ends up with him throwing his staff, his sword, and hitting Lord Zedd's staff and turning it into a snake. And Lord Zedd says, "Oh, curses to you," and disappears and goes back up to join Rita. And so that's how that ends up. But it's sort of a Mexican standoff.
If I remember correctly, that was the episode he was trying to save Kat, I think, from...
Kimberly!
was it Kimberly?
Oh, okay.
Do you want Monterey? I'm sorry. I lost that power.
Oh, I was saying it was White Ranger was trying to save Kimberly, not
Kimberly, yes. Yeah.
So you don't think that...
I think Zedd could take him.
You think you could?
Yeah.
Who thinks that Zedd could take all the Rangers?
If Zedd would be like, finally just say, if you want to get something done right, you got to do it yourself. You stop sending all these monsters down and then making them grow, and then we get our big Zords.
Well, it does seem
there's a pattern developing here. There's a pattern that's developing every single time you do it the same way,
Yeah.
It's like, what is it? The definition of
insanity.
You do the same thing over and over. You expect a different result.
Well, and the top of the staff kind of looked like a big Z-shaped axe anyways, you know, and the bottom looked like a spear. He could probably take them, you know.
Yeah.
So we got a question here?
How did you get the part of the Red Ranger?
Well, we were kind of talking about it earlier, but yeah, I just went to an audition for it. I went to an audition, there was probably nationwide, probably about 14,000 people that auditioned for it.
Wow.
And I'd only been to one audition in my whole life. I never did any kind of acting before, anything like that, so I never thought I'd have any chance at all. I just went and said, let me just see what happens, you know? I figured I got nothing to lose, you know? So that's kind of my attitude going in.
I think that's a good moral too, is, you know, if there's something crazy that kind of comes up in your life and you have an opportunity, you might as well try.
Go for it.
Instead of, you know, like, even if you don't think you have a chance, try it. You know, you never know what happens. You might become a Power Ranger and your entire life will change overnight if you just try it.
Yeah?
I got on the dating game that way.
1973. Awesome.
So, you know that he keeps in contact with Jason David Frank. Do you want to try to follow up the follow-up questions that you
What
have?
was your question? I'll see if we'll see if we can get an answer.
He did the White Ranger versus Scorpion. Would you want to do a Red Ranger versus...
Red
Who
Ranger.
would you want to fight?
Rocky Balboa, Rocky.
Oh, Rocky versus Rocky, that would be good, man. Yeah, actually, you know, it's funny because I have a T-shirt that I have designed, but I haven't had it made yet. But it's the Bluzio helmet, right, on Rocky Balboa's head, sitting right next to Clubber Lang, and it says Rocky 3, because Rocky Zeo Ranger 3, you know. So, anyways, and it looks like a whole fight poster. But I haven't. I posted it up on Instagram a long time ago. If you search through, you'll find it. But I haven't made it into a T-shirt yet. I'll maybe wait until next year to do that. But it should be fun.
Let's see. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. Go ahead.
My question is, how did you feel working with the Aqua Rangers?
Ooh.
What?
Well, did you? Because you were the Rangers. There's 10 episodes where the Rangers from Aquatar, right?
Yeah.
But were you actually on set? Because there was the kid version of Rocky with the little bullet.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There was. Yeah. There was. We did do a couple of episodes with them. I remember that. I think. I don't remember how the storyline went exactly, but yeah, they basically just said, you guys are going on break, and we're gonna have these other Rangers come in. I'm like, okay. So yeah, I remember doing a couple of scenes with them, so I know that we did work with them, and they're very nice actually. You know, Raja actually is one of my friends. I still talk to her all the time to this day. You know, the leader, you know, the white alien ranger. She's a really nice lady, and I talk to her all the time. Yeah, so to answer your question, it was very, very cool to work with them, and only very, very briefly though.
Sure. So we have time for one more question.
Hi, we met yesterday. I was watching the Jetty.
Oh yes, hi. I remember.
Yeah, and also on Facebook too. But my question is, what was your guys' favorite memories of your favorite moments on Power Rangers? Because for me, just meeting you guys yesterday was really awesome for me, and I grew up watching it, and I have epilepsy. It's not as bad as it used to, but I was wondering what was your favorite memories?
Driving home. Favorite memories. Well, I remember we did the live show. Did anybody see the live show?
I actually saw it.
It might be before many years' time. The live shows, there were two casts that were sent. One was to the eastern part of the country, the other was to the western part of the country. And we did the soundtrack, so to speak, in one long session. It took about 12, 13 hours. And Lord Zedd I think I had half the dialogue in the whole show. It was really verbose. So that was a fine memory. We really worked hard to create that soundtrack. So that's one of the nice memories I had. It was the only time where the whole cast were together, sitting in a circle, doing the soundtrack, and working with each other in the studio. Otherwise, they bring us in, it's pretty dry, they bring us in one at a time to do line. If I was doing like Zedd and Finster, I'd do Finster, line, beginning to end. Then I'd go back to the beginning of the episode and do Zedd, line. Hi, bye, go home. So it was nice to be able to work with the other characters in that session. So that's a fond memory.
What about you, Steve?
You know, there was really a lot of fond memories, you know. First of all, like, one of the cool things was, you know, getting to meet a lot of famous people would bring their kids to meet us, you know, especially at the premiere, you know, like, I met Mike Myers, and I met, you know, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and, you know, Harold Ramis brought his kids to the set, went up to the premiere of the movie. I remember one time we were on set, Priscilla Presley came to the set. Her then husband was directed some of our episodes too, which was kind of funny. And then you know, Gene Simmons brought his little kids to the set. They were little at the time, and now they're all grown up, obviously. But you know, he has a video camera and he's filming all of us, so it was pretty cool. So that was always a fun memory. And then you know, another thing that's just, you know, a beautiful part about being on Rangers that, you know, again, something no one will ever be able to take away is just when we would go visit, like, you know, children's hospitals and, you know, the sick kids, especially the Make-A-Wish Foundation, where it's like their last wish is to come and meet us, and they come to the set, and we get to take pictures with them and, you know, hang out with them. I mean, I think karmically I'm good forever now because we were able to make those kids' dreams come true, you know, and I'm very, very proud to be part of that, just for that alone, you know. Very cool.
Great question to close this all out.
Thank you guys.
Robert, this is, thank you for making so much
I have an apology to make about yesterday's panel. I don't know how many people were at yesterday's panel, but it was a snafu that I didn't really have to leave after the first scene. I don't know why they announced that. It was a mistake, but I'm sorry it happened.
And to make up for it, he's going to stay for another hour and answer all y'all's questions, but I gotta go.